distinguished guests, members of the media, let me thank my cabinet colleague, Minister Biko, for once again inviting me to this important gathering, the 2026 Education Lekgotla. Let me start also by joining you, Minister, by expressing my condolences to the families, relatives of our young learners who passed away yesterday. In fact, as former Minister of Transport, I want to be honest, I'm outraged about this. That is why we don't speak in transport of accidents. We speak of crashes. Because yesterday's thing was not an accident. If you follow forecast, it's not an accident. You try to overtake forecast, it's not an accident. It's human error. That's why we talk crashes. So our condolences then also to you, Minister. I've been asked today to speak on the topic aligning STEM with foundational learning. And I wish to just make a few brief points under this topic. The first is the importance of investing in science, technology, and innovation. I often make the point that no country can hope to achieve its developmental goals if it fails to invest in the development of science, technology, and innovation capabilities. As part of enhancing our country's ability to respond to both our historical and contemporary challenges over the past 3 decades, we've made, I'm pleased to say, significant investments with a view of strengthening our country's science, technology, and innovation capabilities. I was told recently, I attended a gathering, so when people were referring to STI, I was saying, really, I won't be discussing STI in this conference, because also STI stands to stand for sexually transmitted infection. I want you to make a difference. This is my department. STI, Science, Technology, and Innovation. As an outcome, today we boast the biggest and most robust public science system in Africa, at the heart of which are some of our country's premier public science institutions, such as the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Human Sciences Research Council, and the National Research Foundation, as well as the South African National Space Agency, and many other similar bodies. Our country also enjoys the status of an emerging global leader in a number of critical scientific domains. In astronomy and space science, for instance, we host 2 of the biggest scientific instruments of the world, the Square Kilometre Array and the Southern African Large Telescope. And I do invite people to visit these institutions, by the way. Especially Minister and DG, the schools that are closer to some of us. We should encourage them to visit this. It's usually very good because they get stimulated, they get more curious, and we are laying a very good foundation for science. Our department has used actually the Square Kilometre Array to, among others, support maths and science education in rural towns, such as Carnarvon in the Northern Cape. For instance, we've awarded over 300 high school bursaries through the Square Kilometre Array program, so that we are able to have more learners participating and knowing what we are doing at the SKA. And also we have awarded bursaries in robotics programs and early childhood initiatives that are aimed at inspiring the next generation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We've also awarded 1,317 research grants and trained over 1,100 students in radio astronomy as a way of creating a pipeline from high school to doctoral level. This we're doing it at school level. We also have a unique collection of high-caliber scientific infrastructure, such as the Regional Space Weather Center. This is the only center in the whole of the African continent which looks into weather in the space. Because with climate change now, there's going to be very close influence between our normal atmospheric weather that you mentioned and weather in the space. We've got this weather center, which is the only one in the continent, plays a crucial role in protecting technological systems by monitoring and focusing space weather, storms, and their impacts. Another one of our high caliber science infrastructure, which is really very exciting, is the nuclear medicine research infrastructure, NuMeRI facility, which is housed at the Steve Biko Hospital, and focuses on drug development, clinical research, and provide cutting-edge diagnostics for, among others, cancer, tuberculosis, and other major diseases. It's here at the Steve Biko Hospital. And I would again like to encourage that school teachers, principals, consider when you do your visit to include that. How we use nuclear technology. It's the only one out also of its type in the whole of the African continent. Using nuclear to improve diagnosing and treatment of diseases like cancer. Now, the other latest exciting development is that Biovac, which is our vaccine company, 47% owned by government, got the approval from the South African Health Regulatory Products Authority to begin clinical trials of its oral cholera vaccine. It's the first of its type. Now, for those of us who are scared of injections, this is a huge advance. Like most men, they are very scared of the needle. Someone once said, if men were to carry babies in their stomachs, they would only be firstborns, that's all. Nothing further than that. Now, this breakthrough is a significant boost for the development of South Africa's sovereign manufacturing capacity and achieving the African Union's goal of ensuring that by 2040, 60% of all vaccines used in Africa must be locally produced. At the moment, we are far from this target. We rely on vaccines from the north, yet they are not under any pressure to produce those vaccines who are treating mainly African diseases. Now, why am I sharing all this with you? It's to make the point that one of the reasons why our country is an emerging global leader in the science domains I've mentioned is because the basic training in maths and science, inadequate as it may be, but does contribute a lot to this. Because without this pipeline coming through the schooling system, we would not be able to do what we are doing now. Now, the second issue I wish to highlight is the importance of a future-proof education system. We are looking through one of the most unpredictable times in history, characterized by wars, characterized by pandemics. With climate change also, we are going to be having more pandemics coming up. Coronavirus was not the last pandemic. We were told, in fact, that less than 8 years or so from now, we are likely to have another pandemic. Hence the importance of building our capacity in science. Now, all these challenges have made the future of humanity increasingly uncertain and have forced us to rethink not only the kind of economic systems we need in order to build a shared future for the humanity, but what kind of knowledge and skills we would need to realize such a future. There is a saying which goes along those lines. In order to be able to create to have a better future, you must not follow it, you must create and innovate for it. So that there is certainty of what is going to happen tomorrow. In response to this challenge, our country's decadal, which is 10-year plan for science, technology, and innovation, advocates for what we call future-proof education. Now, in the context of our time, an education would focus on, such an education would focus on digital and future skills for young people. with an emphasis on emerging domains such as artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, and the development of digital solutions. We believe this focus must be complemented by soft and cognitive skills such as communication, teamwork, and resilience, problem solving, creative and analytical thinking. Equally important is the need to complement classroom-based instruction with extracurricular activities that stretch the minds of our learners and provides learners with a platform to put into practice the core scientific principles from the classroom in problem-solving scenarios. The third issue I wish to touch upon is to highlight some of our own initiatives as a department in support of a future-proof education. As a department, we support a number of initiatives that seek to empower learners with digital and future skills. This includes our learners' STEMI Olympiads. These activities provide learners with an opportunity to engage physically with STEM while helping them to develop cognitive skills, particularly analytical and problem-solving skills. As some of you may be aware, at a national level, these interventions are led by the South African Mathematics Foundation and the EXCOM Expo, which lead, amongst other things, the South African Math Olympiad and the International Science Fair. As a department, we will continue to support these organizations. And part of our long-term goal is to focus more resources on grassroots level support in the form of coaching and mentoring for learners participating or intending to participate in these activities, of course, including the Olympiads. Furthermore, as the Department of Basic Education increases its focus on ECD, it would be important to think of ways in which we can help to introduce children to maths and science as part of ECD. Because I know many will notice, teachers, that the problems in Matric, as the minister was saying, they don't start there. They start way back in the foundational learning. And unless and until we introduce there, such as Maths and Science Foundation there, we are not going to improve it as we seek to improve it. And there is still this problem that many Black South Africans see in Maths and Science. And we need to find a way of making science not to be feared, but to be embraced. That's something that's very important. And Mahuta like this need to give us a comment and a direction on how to do this. In fact, the Minister Kwakuba, when she announced the 2025 matric results, said, and I quote, only 34% of candidates wrote mathematics, while most wrote mathematical literacy. This is concerning as mathematics is an important gateway subject, unquote. Now, if 34% wrote matric, how many got firstly 60%, which is normally your requirement at university if you want to pursue medicine or engineering and so on, which means the task is still big. We really do need to find a way of overcoming this. To help address Minister Kwakuba's concern, one of the practical things I've done as Minister, as an example, was adopt a primary school in rural KZN in Hanoi called Crystal Springs. This school is a very interesting school. It's located between the two most expensive schools here, Hilton College and Michael House. You can't go more expensive than that. In between there is this poor school, mainly of retrenched farm workers in the rural areas. But when I gave them this kit for robotics and coding, they became number 2 in a competition in the whole of KZN. Now, this is proof of what we should do. We should be doing. Now, in conclusion, let me conclude by a call to some actions. That in order to build an agile and truly future-proof education system for our country, we don't simply have to respond to global trends. We should also develop the capacity to define them. Just like innovation, you mustn't keep on like a sponge absorbing innovation from outside the country. We should also contribute, not only to innovation domestically, but to innovation globally. And the South Africans were very talented. I have no doubt that we will actually be able to do that. So now we need to give focused attention. The minister has covered some of these things. I'm not going to explain them, also because of time. Teacher development. Very important. The other one is addressing resource disparity, ensuring that we close the resource gaps between schools, especially the rural urban divide. Coordination and partnerships, ensuring that the interventions of governments, NGO foundations, and professional bodies are aligned in terms of our core objectives. Last week when I went to my constituency in Zulu in KZN, that's where I am assigned. I'm also a DDM champion of that area. It became clear to me actually that one of the big challenges, the minister put it in her own way, is to develop an ecosystem for successful schooling in localities. That is very important. And that just does not involve only the Department of Basic Education. All of us, we need to be party working with DBE for this effort, including addressing inequality. The other challenge I would like to leave you with, I'm also leaving this challenge with Minister Kakuba, Deputy Minister Maulu, and the DG, and all of you. Do we need to have second chance teaching programs in this country? That's a challenge I want to pose to you. I would also be very clear, how many Matric learners pick up the second chance of Matric? And out of those, how many actually pass? Because maybe we need to open another route, which is not a direct repeat of Matric, but you actually have a Matric level qualification that's focusing on foundational maths and science, information technology, English proficiency, and study skills. And if they pass, it's equal to Matric, but it must also be at a foundational level to post to university or college entrance. This thing has been worrying me as Minister of Education and Training. It's not easy to repeat anything, not because you are not capable, but it could bore you to death. So why don't we also provide another exit point about performance for this? It's a challenge to everyone that I'm posing. And there's no better place like this. Also, I must end by saying our educators are doing great work. They are really doing great work. I think we must give them a huge round of applause. My constituency does not have scholar transport. There isn't any. None of those schools have got laboratories, and none of those schools, maybe one or two, have got libraries. How do we then expect to create future-proof education? We need to ensure. We agreed in my constituency, Minister, I want you to watch me on this, if I succeed. We agreed that all professionals who went through those schools must come back and act to support those schools. How many of us here are supporting the primary school we went to, the high school that we went to? We have networks now, you can be able to assist. I went to this one only technical high school in the Herigwara district in KZN. It's only one out of I don't know how many schools that are there. It's short of 5 workshops. That's an indictment. Well, also to business. Why do you have the only technical high school? We don't partner with it, but also we don't mobilize people who went to those schools. I don't want to speak tough, but in a way it's being selfish that you went to a school that gives you a foundational education and you don't go back to contribute. That's a crucial part of the ecosystem of an education system in all or in each and all of our localities. I wish you a successful Lekgotla. Thank you very much.